Alright, what is up? So, I'm going to go through pretty fairly easy, straightforward setup in TP, aka thinking particles, for this cool effect that you have seen in Snow White, which I think it's pretty dope. Paul Hormus is the man. Cool. So yeah. So he did a kind of a breakdown on Stevens' site of his setup, and just some screenshots of what he's got. These are just a bunch of layers. Lots of stuff going on with that. So yeah. So alright, so let me put together a this is kind of like your basic. Alright, so I set something up that's that kind of achieves something similar. Actually, I got a play blast here. So obviously it doesn't have the detail because that would take forever, but it's, you know, it's in the ballpark. Alright, so let me start over, new scene. So I've got a guy here standing, which, by the way, you can grab. It's if you go to Turbo Squid, where is it? Which, by the way, you can if you go to Turbo Squid and just type in search for Freebie Man. This dude gave this out for free. It's pretty cool. It's rigged really nicely. So if you want to use it, go ahead and download it. I just posed them and just using the geometry. So, alright. We're going to hide this guy. We're going to start out with this cylinder. First create some groups. Let's name them. Object. This is active for gravity and stuff. And this is frags. And this is your collision object, which would be this sword. And I got the sword just animating right through that thing. Create some dynamic sets in this awesome Snow White effect. Exclamation point. Cool. So birth. This is going to be activators. Name this gravity, and then one more SC for shape collision. So let's throw in a object particle. Select the cylinder, put it in object, instant shape, object particle, and hide it. So this is going to be your object. Make another operators generator object particle. Name this collision object. Pick your sword. I kind of made it funky looking like that, just so it gives it some thickness. So it's not just this tiny little piece of thin geometry slicing through. It actually gets some, you can get some movement out of the pieces. And then you can just go back in and I could just take that off and there you go. But this is, I extruded these out just for just for the dynamics. Anyway, so we got the sword in there. Put it in a collision object, object particle, instant shape. Alright, so hide that, right? Cool, so now we got these two things going through. Okay, what do we want to do? We want to start by making a activation point of impact wherever this sword hits this object. So you go into your activators dynamic set. We're going to want to do that there. So first make a initiator PPass AB, which is two groups which you are able to use to interact with each other. So this one we need to point to collision object. Group A goes to collision object. Group B goes to object. Group A is the sword. Group B is the actual object. Drop the A particle, A velocity. So we want the velocity of the collision object, and yeah, and that's the only channel we need. And then we also need a oh, okay, so if you're curious, if you don't know already, just to get a better understanding of these nodes, check out Cebus's YouTube page. Their videos, if you go down to Joe Scar's, got some pretty in-depth videos on each node. So if you go to you know, any of these nodes, you've got all these little videos of him talking about the functionality. So check those out if you are curious. Anyway, okay, so we got the PPass AB. We need a, go to helper, intersect. Put we want a particle into a position, a velocity into direction, E particle into particle shape, and then there you go. So the intersect is taking the position of a particle, which is the sword. You know what? I'm just going to name this sword. Sword. It's taking the position and the direction of the sword, which basically means it's taking wherever this is, and the direction, which is based off the velocity of however this is being animated. And it's taking the shape of the object and combining all that information into a value, which is the position of impact, point of impact. So we want to visualize that. So you want to go to generator, position born. We want to born some particles wherever that hits. So throw that in there. We want to throw the on to hit. So when that hits, it turns this on, and the position to position. if that all makes sense. And the group, so make a new group, call this point impact, or actually impact point. That makes more sense. Impact point, impact point. Go back to the group. We want to make sure you have this change the color to something, and then make sure you got it there if you don't have forces setting on or off. Alright, hope that makes sense. Anyway, okay, so throw on, so I want to start throwing some particles here, so it's like 150 and 100 lifespan, add some more on that, speed, turn that to 0, direction, we want 180, we want a nice circle, and then emit distance. Actually, let me turn that, oh, that's already off, okay, cool. So when this hits, this should give okay, this was not checked. So make sure you check speed as ray length, which basically means when this is checked, the speed in which this travels is fixed. So it kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I believe that basically estimates or kind of automatically detects how fast this is going, so it will automatically, because like if I uncheck that and yeah, see if I throw the speed up, it's almost like I'm guessing how fast this is going, and then you can see the particle. But when this is checked, it automatically does it for you. And it's shown up way before because I have it set at 96 samples, which is 24 times 4, that's 4 times, basically 4 times per frame. So let me just put it on per frame right now. It's back to 10. Well, let me keep it at, there we go, okay. So let me, alright, go back to position born. Throw this thing up, we want to see this thing, boom. So that is where it's impacting. So right now this is for visual reference as to where that thing's hitting. And I can move this up anywhere on this and it'll update. Cool, so we have this. Let's move on to, let's make some gravity active. Anything in this group will be affected by gravity. Make a force. 0.3 for direction. -1. Let's do like 100. Oh, and also just to let you guys know, I'm working in centimeters. Cool, so we got this all good. We got gravity. We have gravity. Add a shape collision node inside SC. Point your group to SC. And deflector, I'm just going to use a node. So helpers, standard node. Floor node, put that in there. And then I already have a box. I pick that box. Make sure it is a box and not a plane, otherwise it will not work as a floor. Cool, so we have our floor. And we have our shape collision. So there we go. Alright, and now we need to tell the shape collision to evaluate the impact between these two, so we can actually so we can fracture it. So we need particle collision, these two outputs, which is collision particle A, collision particle B. So what we need to do is tell between these two outputs, tell one to hit to interact with the other. So we need to use our an in-group conditions in-group. What these are, they basically they single out a group that is inside a hierarchy. So this one, we're going to tell it to be the object, and we're going to tell particle A to evaluate in-group and become this object. So duplicate this, and we're going to do the same thing with particle B. Particle B is going to evaluate this in-group and become the sword. So between these two, outputs, this shape collision is evaluating an impact between the object and the sword. And again, you can check out the Seavis YouTube, and Joe Scar goes over these nodes, kind of more of a better explanation than I can. So anyway, so we also want to include both these values. Yeah, so both these are outputting a true once they collide with each other. That's how this works. So we need to add both these true values into one single true value. So we need to just go to helpers, standard, and basically it just it takes this value, and consolidates them into one output, which then you can turn on a node. So that way we'll do a volume breaker. If you turn this, put this in here, so when particle A and particle B, when these two collide with each other, they're going to output a true value into this one. They are consolidated, and then therefore turn this one on. So we have an empty particle here. We need to, since this in-group is being told to be the object, that makes this particle A be assigned to this object, which is the cylinder. So that way you just throw that into the volume breaker, and that's what we get. So that's how we're going to get our impact. So put these two frags, that is the output group. Play with the raster size. I'm going to put this to 10, this to 3000 for right now. That's object, that's sword, cool. So nothing. So what is going on? So why is this not working? Okay, so the sword group is not inside the shape collision under the parent shape collision parent. Therefore, it's not being the shape collision doesn't know where or what the sword is. So make sure this sword is in, and turn neutron on so you keep the animation. Boom. Alright, so we got this thing working. Ugh. So let's first change the colors of your stuff. Like this yellow, and then frags blue. Alright, boom. So we got our collision. And our awesome animation. That looks great. Yep, done. Alright, so let's turn this thing down to like 3. So that's starting to get there. Another thing is too, I turned the activation up all the way to 100. If you turn it to 0, nothing's gonna happen. It's gonna it'll volume break, but it will not activate. So what we want to do is we want this to be activated at a certain radius on where the impact radius is. You could use a helper and point this towards the sword, place the threshold, and then you get like there you go, kind of like an activation threshold. But the deal with this is turn the voxel grid to 1 so you get a better so what we want to do is we want this radius to grow, because in the video this thing, like you could see not just the when he hits it, but this the whole knight just disintegrates, and it's almost like this spherical radius, sphere radius kind of grows around. So we want to make that. We don't just want the impact point. Let's throw some mass on this thing so we get some weight. And also the collision object. Size of mass, it's like 10. It's to like 5. Size of mass. That's a little better. But so actually first let's add another dynamic set. Oh, did not want to do that. I just screwed up put this up here. Call this freeze. Because what we want to do is we want to keep the source objects, which are the leftover shattering to be frozen. So make a group object, dynamics, put a freeze node, just put that to 100, and what you'll do is, there we go, you get a nice, alright, so I'm gonna make, just to make this nice and neat, call this forces, gravity and freeze. So there we go, nice in there. Okay, so now we want this thing to grow. Let's go back into our activator, turn volume breaker off right now. So we got our little sphere there. Let's kind of do what I just did with the forces dynamic set. Let's call this vectors. Call this impact point. And we're going to take this and we're going to duplicate it. So hold shift, drag, and then you get this too. So we're going to call this impact grow. Fro. Not fro. Grow. Take this, duplicate that, call this impact grow, just so we get nice organization. So color this nice green. Alright. So now we're gonna get the same exact, we got the same nodes, but this one we're gonna add some speed. Oh, okay, point this to impact grow. We're gonna add some speed to this one. So what's gonna happen is when this hits, it's gonna grow. These parts will grow, add some variation. It's a little fast, turn it down a bit. It's a little slow. So there you go, that's good. This one we want to add a lot of particles so we cover a good amount of so what this is going to do is when this hits, these particles are going to be used for an activator. So this point of impact, these green particles are going to activate the rest of the frags, so you get that nice kind of almost implosion look. Boom. Cool. So we got that. So let's go back into shape collision, turn this on. Right. And then we're going to use impact grow to activate our frags. Alright, I'll play with the threshold, see what it does. Cool. And it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? I'll tell you why. It's because what's happening is the reason why you only get this, these only activating is because when these two are being evaluated, when the collision between these two objects are turning this volume breaker on, it's only turning it on when these two interact. So basically it's almost like they're only working on the first 1 or 2 frames, and then it almost it doesn't shut off, but it this output is no longer piping out a true value. So that means that this threshold only works for the first few frames, which is not going to work. It's not what we want. So what I did, I figured out, I put a timer in between these two. So if you take these off, so what's going to happen is put this to just an arbitrary number, just a high number. What's going to happen is when this output's true, it's going to turn the timer on. Once this timer starts, it doesn't turn off. I mean, after 99 frames, it's going to turn off, but you know, it's you're only going so far. So turn this particle in here, pipe this particle in here, turn this out to on. So what we're going to get is this out. It's going to turn this timer on. The second this turns on, this is going to output true, which turns it on. So it's basically the same effect, except it's not going to turn off. It's going to stay. It's going to stay on. So this is what we get. Boom. So then we get the particles being able to activate. what you get. And then you can even play with this timer. Like if you only want these things to activate up until here, you know, make this like 5 frames, or 6 frames or something. 7. I lied, 7. So in between 7 frames, once this thing starts, they're only going to activate up until 7 frames. That's what you get. So I'm going to keep this at a high number. And we got, cool. Boom. Alright, now we want to make these things look like the shards. Now, so they're like these glass type, really sharp looking pieces. So what you can do is you go to volume breaker. First let me turn this to none. Keep that, yeah, just keep that for now. Go down here, go to your scale, and start messing with that thing, which I think it's let's see, Z. We want to turn down to lower one. We want to move Y. Play with the Y, and then X a little bit. All right, cool. So now we're getting these like elongated, nice long looking shards. Play with the raster, make these smaller, 1.5. Ooh, that's really small. Cool, so we're getting this cool looking shape. And also, just to keep you aware, I'm still on 96 samples, which is 4 subframe samples, which I would either do half frame or something higher when you're doing this intersect, between this intersect node and these two, this shape collision detect, just so it gets an accurate collision. So right now already we're getting it nice. And it's like, yeah, and there you go, it's expanding its activation. I'm just going to lower the size of this so we can actually see this play back. I'll play with the friction. Turn that down a little bit. Frags. Turn that down a bit so we don't get it so sticky. You can see it's going through some stuff, so you can even, that's partly because those are pretty large pieces, too. Alright, cool, so we got that. One more, another thing is, it's almost like they kind of have a little mini explosion too when they reach a point other than his sword. Like everything else looks like it's kind of blown out a bit, so we want to add a little force to it. So when these things are activated, we want to out of born particle, we want to add add a force. You could put a velocity too if you want, but then there you put like 5,000 decay, 1,000 spherical. You know, so it's thrown out. You can even add a spin. Put this down, variation. go. So in general, this is a pretty similar effect achieved. So now we want to we're gonna remove this cylinder. We're gonna add in the guy. Hide this hair. Object. Shape. Hide it. Move forward. Alright, so first I shut off shape collision. Up until about frame 16, we want to, since TP is calculating shape collision all the way up to then, we want to shut that off up until then, so we get some, just free up that speed. So throw in a time interval condition. Started at 16 and frame by number, and then turn it back on. And there you go. So what we can even do is head. Go up to his head. Chop his head off. Kind of make this smaller. Alright, I'm gonna cache this, see what we get. Alright, cool. So this is cached. This is what it looks like. And this right here, it's just that's just it's a stickiness. Also, it has to do with the sword. Voxel grid is at 3, so it's not 100% accurate. Shape, put it to 1. You'll fix this a bit, and then mess with your friction and your elasticity. And even on top of these, you can add your, based off velocity. You do a velocity check. And volume break those more, so you get finer pieces. Play with this. Play with the size of your raster and the size of your pieces, so you get smaller, more detailed ones. Add more layers. When you add more layers, just add another one of these. Put them in another group, and that group gets hit. That all goes into this group. So cool. Alright, sorry if that was a little long. I think I was mumbling. But yeah, there you go.